It's not exactly uncommon for villains to surprise us by having one redemption moment, but what makes us all the more impressed by their character development is when they actually decide to switch sides. From Accelerator becoming a literal angel to Vegeta siding with the Earthlings, let's find out as we go through anime moments when villains became good.
そしてもう一人の新メンバーじゃ。俺挨拶せんか。
おい、嘘だろ。
We start with the classic bad boy turned tsundere with a heart of gold, and it's none other than Gargiel joins Fairy Tail. Gargiel was introduced as a member of a rival guild that has a darker side, and with this being shonen in the 2000s, subtlety wasn't yet an invented flavor, so we get to see the guy straight up perform psychotic behavior with a smile on his face. Eventually, he and his guild are beaten, and he has to join his once enemies to get any kind of gig at all. After a stint of well-earned distress, the rest of the guild warmed up to the Dragon Mage, and he became one of the core characters in the series. Gargiel's whole shtick is a pretty common anime trope of a bad guy getting beaten and then joining the team. But Gargiel is special in that he never attempts to fight back or deny the harm he's caused. He's also just a real softie inside, and we saw that as the series went on. I know that some viewers see Fairy Tail as a series that just relies on the power of friendship too much, but I think Gargiel joining Fairy Tail was a very important event. Now let's talk about a character evolution that's as surprising as it is satisfying, and it's none other than Teruki Hanazawa losing to Mob in Mob Psycho 100. You see, Hanazawa from Mob Psycho 100 is a psychic who's been using his powers to climb the social ladder. He's got an inflated ego, thinking he's the top dog because of his abilities, but all that when Mob, who believes in using his powers responsibly. He definitely watched the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. When Teruki tries to provoke Mob into a psychic showdown, then things heat up. Teruki doesn't even hold back, attacking Mob and trying to force him to use his powers. Teruki's character shift is one of the highlights of the series, and it also becomes really important as the series goes on. He goes from being self-absorbed to becoming a thoughtful ally, showing us that even the most arrogant characters can learn humility and grow. What made this even cooler was that Mob completely wiped the floor with him even when Mob was unconscious. If someone humiliated me that much, I'd also try and find something new to do.
僕って凡人だったんだな。
ルルーシュ様、あなたがゼロとなったのはやはりマリアンヌ様のためであったのですね。
Remember Jeremiah Gottwald? It's the Orange Man himself when he joins Zero in Code Geass. Well, initially he's all about the Britannian Empire, enforcing its rules without question. He's a top-notch pilot of nightmare frames and doesn't hesitate to take down Japanese resistance members. But then, after he realizes Zero's true identity, my man becomes the biggest glazer of all time. Jeremiah's world flips upside down. He becomes this Geass hunting machine, and his character takes a wild, unexpected turn. Now here's where things get even more interesting. Jeremiah confronts Lelouch, demanding to know why he's turned against Britannia. Lelouch, ever so dramatically, reveals his true identity as Lelouch v Britannia and spills the beans about his quest for revenge against the Empire for what they did to his mother and sister. Now, this revelation hits Jeremiah like a ton of bricks. He's been carrying around this guilt for failing to protect Lelouch's mom, and this is his wake-up call. And just like that, he pledges his loyalty to Lelouch and his cause. He didn't even hesitate. He may be crazy, but he sure is loyal. His character becomes so much more complex and honestly, way more likable. The man can't catch a break with this many character developments, but we're all here for it. Next up, we're taking a heavenly detour with Accelerator in a certain magical index. Accelerator is the top dog Esper in Academy City, who initially comes off as a devilish figure in the series. He's got this fiery temper and a ruthless streak, but here's the twist. He's not really into the whole power trip thing. Instead, he's trying to build a reputation so formidable that no one would dare cross paths with him, ensuring no one gets hurt. Kinda like how Lelouch was trying to become the enemy of the world sort of thing here. That's why he's actually a big softie under his prickly personality. After a defeat by Kamijo Doma, Accelerator starts to change. He transitions from being the antagonist to an anti-hero and eventually a protagonist. But the really cool part comes in the final episode of Season 3. Accelerator transforms into an angel. I don't think we need any more proof that he's become one of the good guys. This moment is a major turning point in the series. It marks a significant shift in Accelerator's character, setting the stage for the new challenges and conflicts. It's like watching a devil shed his horns and sprout wings, transforming into an angel right before our eyes. Now that's a transformation worth remembering. From one fantasy series to another, let's deep dive into Shaman King next, when Ren was saved by Yo. Now, let me paint you a little picture here, okay? Tao Ren, this guy who's all logic and seriousness, starts off as Yo Asakura's rival. He's got this deep-seated hatred for humanity thanks to his old man. He sees his spirit companion as nothing more than a tool, just like Ken in the Digimon series actually. But then, plot twist, Ren's own family takes him hostage. Yo, being the hero he is, teams up with Ryu and Horo to save Ren. They go head to head with Ren's father, and against all odds, they free him. I mean, we all saw this coming, but this wasn't just a rescue mission, my fellow weebs. It's the start of an incredible friendship between Yo and Ren, because who wouldn't be friends with the guy that saved them? Yo's actions hit Ren hard, causing him to rethink his whole perspective of the world. The guy who once saw Yo as a rival and despised humanity now sees Yo as a friend. Ren was raised to believe that spirits were just tools, but Yo's friendship and understanding helped Ren see spirits, including his own spirit companion Bason, in a whole new light. Next on our list, we look at the heroic rise of a special octopus, Ikalgo from Hunter x Hunter. Now, looking at him, you probably wouldn't expect this guy to have any special role in one of the darkest arcs in the series, but this man just proves that Killua's first judgment was the right one. First introduced in the Chimera arc battling Killua, Ikalgo impressed the little assassin with his cool and manly attitude, leading to his survival and teaming up against the big bands. What makes him a shoo-in for this list is that while he started off as a villain, there was a kind of nobility in him even back then. Ikalgo was a man who would risk his own life over betraying a comrade, and time again proved this despite the terror of being essentially just a small octopus in a world of children as fast as lightning. Ikalgo is great because we see the workings of a hero even during his villainous phase. It just goes to show that villains have principles, and if it means being on the good side to fight for it, they'll do it, and this is why Ikalgo deserves a spot on this list.
俺でもそこへ行けると。
どんだけだよ。緑谷遺族。お前は本物。
Shooting away into this list, Lady Nagant is one of the more recent characters in My Hero Academia, but that hasn't stopped her from already having very interesting feelings for this sniper. Design aside, there's a deep tragedy to her existence and how it relates to another hero in the series, Hawks. Trained by the Hero Commission to be the perfect force for good, Lady Nagant was what so many aspired to be, but with every mission, the line was getting more smudged and soon she couldn't tell what the difference between her and the villain was. Eventually, she goes on to face Midoriya, and seeing someone who holds the true ideals of heroism so well convinces Nagant to help the young man even at the expense of her own life. When she met Deku, who, despite the world stacked against him, despite her multiple attempts to kill him, still reaches out a hand to save her, and we see that even her attacks were never serious, that despite everything, she still had the heart of a hero. That was poetic and all, but seeing her be a hero again was so cool, especially since her quirk is one of the coldest in the entire series.
心が持たなかった。君はなんでそんな顔でいられる。今この時より気流院皐月と本能寺学園はあなたに反旗を翻す。
Next is Satsuki Kiryuin from Kill La Kill. So, you know how in anime villains are a dime a dozen, right? But then you have Satsuki, and she's a whole different ballgame. Now at first glance, she's this minor baddie, working for her mom who's pretty much the definition of evil. She starts off all cold and ruthless like she's made of ice, but then you start seeing the cracks. Turns out, she's not just going along with her mom's evil plans, she's been waiting for the perfect moment to strike back, and when she does, it's absolutely epic. She reveals that she didn't create Honoji Academy for her mom, but instead, she created it to take her down, and it was one great plot twist. But it's a twist we can totally get behind. This moment is a game changer. It's not just a turning point in her character arc, it's a complete 180. She goes from upholding a corrupt system to challenging it, standing up to her own mom and her abusive authority. And the best part, her journey of self-discovery and a defiance against oppression doesn't even change her. It inspires others to join her cause. Now, that's what you call good storytelling.
この気流院皐月、生命繊維打倒のために立ち上がる。僕はもう誰も傷つけたくない。悲しませたくない。
Now we're going to look at one of the classic anime for inspiration, Soul Eater, and the moment when Krona opens up. Though they debut trying to kill the protagonist of the series Maka, we see how Krona's acts of harm don't come from something they want to do, but from what they were made to do. They were experimented on and tortured by their own mother, made to feel like they were nothing but an evil coward. Krona found themselves in a hole in the desert waiting to die. It was the words of their first true friend Maka that made them begin to appreciate who they are and begin to move past the trauma. After all of that, it's pretty obvious why Krona deserves a spot here. Sometimes we make our own worst villains, and it was Krona's fear of causing harm and upsetting someone, as well as their ability that kept them on that path initially, but it was the power of friendship that made them see where there was another way forward. Krona's case shows the difference between what happens when you spend your life getting put down versus when you have people who raise you up. So that's why for the parents out there, treat your kids well, or they might just enter a villain arc. If you're with me so far, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. ViniiTube's dedicated to bringing you some amazing anime content, and a small step from your end will help us go a really long way. So go ahead, hit that notification bell to be updated on all the latest videos. Thank you. How can we make a list without mentioning one of the best anime series of all time, Gintama? Takasugi is kind of like Aizen of the Gintama series, where every failure is a mild inconvenience and everything always just tends to go away. Unlike Aizen though, I actually find Takasugi charming. He trained alongside Gintoki with their teacher, and they were set up from the very beginning to have a strong rivalry that continued even during the war. They only truly parted ways when they clashed over one wanting to honor their teacher's wishes while the other wanted to destroy the world. But they still ended up joining forces with two other comrades. Takasugi can never be considered truly good, and that's what makes him so fascinating. That's because he's a man who sticks to his principles, willing to destroy out of love. He joins the team as a response to the feeling he once had fighting alongside them. You know, the banter, the camaraderie, the feeling of overcoming anything despite the odds stacked against them. There's nothing like a bit of nostalgia to make a villain become good again. In a list like this, edginess is something you're gonna have to accept, and this character certainly has it in spades. So let's talk about that fight between Hiei and Yusuke in Yu Yu Hakusho. Hiei is the other favorite short king of anime. Now after that initial loss, he shows up now and again in a temporary alliance for a greater goal until he eventually joins the team, which makes me feel so super hyped actually. His first true sign of change is in his beatdown of Yusuke, showing him that he needs to rely on the power within himself if he has any hope of winning and saving his friends. Now it's this scene that lets us know the depth of the demon. Despite his act of being uncaring and power hungry, Hiei is shown to have some principles and tries to rely on strengths he can hone and improve. The quiet nobility and cynical wisdom he provides makes him an invaluable addition to the team, as well as a fantastic addition to the list. Or maybe we can just low-key call him Tsundere for short, or a short Tsundere. Now we go on to every cultured man's favourite waifu, Speedwagon, when he was moved by Jonathan Joestar in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. I mean, what can be said? It's Speedwagon. The man saw some guy just wandering around and his first thought was to cut him down. That's Speedwagon. His top reveals a bunch of blades that can spin around and practically fly. That's Speedwagon. He gets his butt handed to him and a mob forms to take down Jonathan, but is stopped by, you guessed it, Speedwagon. He realizes that neither he nor his friends are as injured as they could have been from Jonathan's strike and immediately believes him to be a true gentleman. That's Speedwagon. He asks for his name and then immediately joins his quest and life forevermore. Finally, that is the true Speedwagon. Now, why does Speedwagon belong on this list? Because he belongs on every list. The man started a fight out of nowhere, lost, and dedicated the rest of his life to serving this man and his family.
You like Speedwagon? What kind of man doesn't?
His actions still affect the Joestar family for generations to come. He's changed the landscape of the JoJo fandom for the better. There are only a few characters that are more loyal than him, and that loyalty comes from a sincere respect for what Jonathan represents.
気に入ったぜ。あんたの名前を聞かせてくれ。ジョナサン・ジョースター。よし、ジョナサン・ジョースター。
人を信じるのは難しい。けど、お前になら裏切られてもいいかも。
With another complete maniac turned loyal friend, Tokyo Ghoul is the kind of story where everyone's a little bit messed up, and Nishiki is no exception. Introduced as the ghoul who first attacked Kaneki, Nishiki was presented to us as a ruthless monster, more concerned about his feeding ground and viewing humans as livestock. Naturally, that didn't sit well with Kaneki, especially since one of those livestock was a friend of his. After a brutal defeat, Nishiki found himself weak, under assault, and saved by Kaneki. He switched sides with the kidnapping of Kimi, where he joined Kaneki to save her, and has been a staple ever since. What makes his switch to a goody-goody so believable is that his hatred and violence come from a place of tragedy, and that's what also made him a complete killer. His life and the life of his sister have been marred by humans wanting to hunt down ghouls like him, thus his need to feed and hunt comes from a place of survival, and that turned to bloodlust. I told you, didn't I? Villains are made, not born. Although his trauma shouldn't be an excuse, he's been trying to make up for his mistakes sincerely. It was his bond with his sister that made him realize that humans can be kind as well, which is just so wholesome actually in my opinion. At least more wholesome than Speedwagons. Next, we have Sesshomaru as he saves Rin in Inuyasha. Now, Sesshomaru is the elder half-brother of Inuyasha, the MC, and also served as a villain initially. Now, during this time, he had the good luck of meeting Rin, the girl who would soon change the way Sesshomaru saw everything and put in a little bit of compassion in his heart. The real turning point that showed this was when the village was attacked by Golgar's wolves and Rin was killed by them. Seeing Rin's body caused Sesshomaru to remember her smile, and he used the power of Tenseiga to revive Rin. Although he did pretend that he was just testing the power, we all knew at the time that Sesshomaru had become good and that he'd just become a bit of a tsundere, and he'd go on to prove that later on in the series after developing a close bond with Rin. It just goes to show that Sesshomaru still had a soft spot in him, he just needed that little tickle to bring out his hidden green flag. Although it may take time, Rin can certainly say I can change him because, well, his inner kindness would indeed come out to make up for his mistakes.
殺生丸様が天聖画でその娘をお助けに殺生丸様
ご苦労様。
組織の仇討ちか相手になるぞ。
なんであんたがここにいるのよ。
敵襲敵襲
We'll now be going on to the truly iconic turns to the light with the one and only best girl, Nico Robin. She was first introduced as the deadly Miss All Sunday under the employ of Crocodile. Fans were already intrigued by her charming and mysterious nature, even as she goes against the Straw Hat crew. She reveals that she planned to kill Crocodile the whole time, but beating the main villain is the protagonist's job, isn't it? Which I think makes a lot more sense than usual. Anyway, after being saved by Luffy, she realizes that the loneliness she's felt for so long may finally be over. Her introduction as an assassin left a strong impression on everyone's mind, and the hints to her deeper nature made her switch all the more believable and her actions all the more understandable. Although she switched to the good side for the sake of her personal goals, she eventually warmed up to the crew and proved that she deserved to be on the team by having their backs when it mattered and saving their lives in the most crucial times. Now I bet most of the fans even forgot how she was initially a villain because she's just so well loved after everything that's happened, because who doesn't love Robin?
意味わかんねえやつだな。どうしろっつんだよ。
私を仲間に入れて。
全部そいつらが仕組んだことだ。
Brewing its way into this list, we'll be taking a look at one of anime's finest works and its broodiest character, Scar from Full Metal Alchemist, and how he learned the truth about Ishval. Scar is a man on the warpath, grieving and raging over the loss of his people. He's torn down and destroyed a lot of entities in his journey and faced off against our favourite Full Metal Alchemist too. This all changes for him when Edward reveals the reason why his people are called the Homunculus Envy. Upon realising that his greatest enemies are right before him, Scar's priorities change and he stands together with our protagonist against the true threat to the world, Father. Scar's story is a pretty common one within the anime community, and I don't think that's a bad thing, you know? It actually makes this switch even better. What makes him so unique and so high up is the character depth they give him. Despite the emptiness inside, there's a sense of honour in the man, and his rage isn't mindless. It's always focused on accomplishing his goal of justice. Though he killed many, it was always in his genuine belief that they were evil, and when he recognises the truth of his actions and those of others, he makes sure to get things right.
詳しく話を聞かせてもらわねばならんようだな。
一人ぼっちのあの苦しみは半端じゃねえよな。
Moving on, we have another member of the Big Three, and it's when Gaara changed after learning about Naruto's past in the Naruto series. Now, Naruto isn't a show that's squeamish about violence, but this 12-year-old puts the brute in brutality. And I don't know how we never acknowledged that the characters were kids killing each other. From broken bones to broken lives, the cruelty on display from such a young child could only be explained with an even crueler life. Isolated and alone, made to feel that others will always seek to use or kill him, Gaara developed trust issues and to believe that no one would ever understand him. That was until he met Naruto. Well, talk about bromance. Gaara's place on this list is without question thanks to Naruto's efforts. Seeing another go through the same feelings he did and choose to love, care and protect others resonated with him and brought a bond between the two outcasts that will last the entire series and turn the once outcast into the leader and savior of his village. With all the things he did to make up for his past mistakes, including saving the same people he used to face during his emo era, he finally aspires to be as good as Naruto, which makes him deserving of being on this list.
僕をどうする気だ。
治療してやろうと言うんだ。
そんなこと信じられるか。
And of course, you may have probably guessed what number one would be. The most infamous character from the most well-known anime, Vegeta, and the moment when he teamed up with Krillin and Gohan. We get a taste of his casual disregard for life when he wipes out his subordinate. The next time he meets his enemies is on Namek, where he's left with no choice but to team up with the people he once fought for survival. Now this scene marks the beginning of his long road to redemption. While also a bit of a jerk, he still takes the time to answer and explain things instead of simply barking back at the duo, even joking with them near the end, which was surprising to say the least. This was the start of Vegeta's arc from being a lovable villain to a tsundere, I mean an even more lovable rival I guess. What makes his character development even better is that it wasn't rushed. It was like a semi-slow burn, which is exactly why we smile at the things he does that he would never have done originally. We see a man who's guided by a strong sense of honor and respect for his people, and despite his defeat at the hands of the Z Warriors, he'll fight with and save them if it means taking down a greater evil.
来い。
どこへだ。
宇宙船の中だ。カカロットを連れてこい。
And with that, we're wrapping up this list of the top 20 anime moments when villains became good. As always, do let us know if we missed your favorite characters that you believe should have made it on this list. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share this video with your friends to see more. See you next time.